Hello everyone. Welcome to the Facebook page of Purnam Ecovision Foundation and YouTube channel Apla Paryavaran. Today is our 31st webinar of the webinar series which we have started since August under Awareness Initiative. So this series is based on the core environmental topics, and as Purnam is working on environment and waste management, these topics are all related to these core subjects. Uh, uh, Patil sir, please may I request you to mute yourself so that we won't hear an echo. Yes, thank you. So as I was saying, this is our 31st webinar under the awareness initiative of Purnam Ecovision Foundation, and it is with collaboration with the Ecological Solutions. So we have 5 projects which we are running successfully since 8 years now. So I would like to name these 5 projects. Fabric upcycling, which includes the upcycling and products making from fabric project. Secondly, we have e-waste and plastic waste management, under which we conduct drives each weekend in Pune city and collect e-waste and plastic waste, which is later refurbished and recycled. Third, we have green consultancy, in which we have composting, rainwater harvesting, and biogas plant. So if you are interested to conduct these projects in your society, you can contact us on our Facebook page or our website www.purnamecovision.org. Nextly, we have sanitary napkin disposal plant at Fulton. And the 5th project is awareness initiative, under which we aware the general people and students about environment and its conservation. So these are the 5 projects, and Purnam is working in it since 8 years now. So today's topic is career opportunities in sustainable agriculture. So today's guest, we have Dr. Satilal Patil sir with us for sharing his information and giving us a lecture on this topic. So for this session and his introduction, I would like to welcome our CEO of Purnam Ecovision Foundation, Dr. Rajesh Manerikar sir. Welcome, sir. Sir, I request you to introduce our today's speaker to all the viewers.
Thanks, Tanvi. It is our great privilege to have evergreen personality in today's session. He is my PhD mate, so we know each other since last 10-15 years. And as usual, you will get more and more information from when he will talk on his subject. Basically, he is a PhD from University of Pune on environmental biotechnology and MSc from North Maharashtra University, Jalgaon. Presently, he is working as managing director of Green Vision Life Sciences Private Limited and director of Green Cert Biosolutions Private Limited. It is basically working in company working in organic certification. Also, he is working as managing director of a company working in environment with the name Vision Ecologica Private Limited. Also, he is agriculture engineer at Al Wadi Agriculture Estate, Dubai, UAE. Since he is basically having a background of agriculture and environmental biotechnology, he is working in last 23 years in biofertilizer, biopesticides, environment and specialty chemical industry. He will talk more on this with his topic, but to introduce him more, I would like to take 1 minute because he is basically apart from this involved in 4 different companies. He is basically a biker who had traveled from Pune to Singapore and Pune, so about 20,000 kilometers in 7 countries and with 56 days. Basically, apart from this is the longest tour what he has done so far, but all these small tours in Pune, Ladakh, Delhi and all. That is apart from that. But recently he has published a book on his journey expedition on this Pune to Singapore and Pune. So that book is also very interesting, and readers shall always understand his experience right from culture, food, and obviously his experience in biking. So I wish from Purnam's platform all the best for his future endeavors as a biker. Definitely, we would definitely hear more about his more bikes. But today's topic is since biotechnology. Let us hear more on biotechnology from him. Yes, thanks, Satilal. It's yours now.
Thank you, sir. So before starting, I would like to tell all the viewers that you can interact with our speaker later on in the last 10 minutes. After the session is over, we shall be able to connect with him via comments. So if you have any questions or queries, please comment it in the comment box under the video so that we shall convey your messages to him and you'll get the answers to your questions. So before starting, please let us all share the video and watch party it so that more people can connect with us. Yes, thank you everyone. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, I'm audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, clear.
Yeah. First of all, thank you very much, Purnam Ecovision Foundation, for inviting me here. And it's my privilege to share my experiences with you and your viewers. I'll just share my screen so that we can go through the presentation. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, yeah. Today's topic is opportunities in sustainable agriculture. Actually, sustainable agriculture, it's a very big topic in itself. And nowadays, everybody is talking about it. So that's why it is one of the, what we can say, it's a need of the hour. So let us know more about it and what are the opportunities as an Indian and as a, what we can say, Maharashtra people, what are the opportunities we have in sustainable agriculture. The first of all, the question comes in mind, what is sustainable agriculture? So many people talk about it, but most of people, they have vague idea about it. What is sustainable? Means sustainable means organic, or it's a jaivic, or it's a biological, like that. So as per when you go as a with the definition of sustainable agriculture is, it's a integrated system of plants and animal production practices having a site-specific application that will, over long term, satisfy human food and fiber needs, enhance environmental quality and natural resources, and make most efficient use of non-renewable resources and on-farm resources, and integrate where appropriate natural biological cycles and controls, and sustain economical viability and farm operations. I'll not go in details with this bookish definition, but this is just for your reference. And the last thing in this definition is enhance the quality of life of farmer and society as a whole. In simple words, it's a sustainable farming is farming in sustainable way to meet food, feed, and clothes we need with eco-friendly ways. Means whatever we need to live, whatever resources we need, while getting those resources, we should not scorch our Mother Earth, because nowadays, while what we can say is going through your daily life, each and every second we are extracting Mother Earth, right? From minerals, food, air, whatever it may be. We are just extracting resources from Mother Earth. That's why while doing the agriculture, we should use the practices which are sustainable and which doesn't hurt the natural resources. Why sustainable agriculture? Because this is the important thing. Because why we need it? Because doing agriculture itself is against nature. As you know, when human being initially during the pre-evolution phase, human being used to stay in jungles, used to eat foods and other things from jungle. That time it was a part of food chain. Initially, human being was quite in middle in natural food chain, but as it grew, as it started using its a brain, at it went up in evolution pattern, suddenly it moves on the top of food chain, and that's where problems started. And while doing this agriculture, it leaves a lot of environmental footprints, and that causes climate change. For example, while doing agriculture, we need to put a lot of fertilizers and pesticides, a lot of emissions we put in a air. While doing agriculture, the submerged agriculture, we produce a lot of methane from paddy field and all that. So these things, they are putting a lot of pressure on the climate. Then apart from that, water scarcity is another problem in agriculture. Since we started doing commercial agriculture, we need more water, and if we need more water, you need to take it from others. Okay, if you need more, then you need to take it from others. And that's why you must be knowing the farming like sugarcane, it needs tremendous quantity of water to grow sugarcane. You must be knowing your 1 cup of tea actually consumes around 140 liters of the water. To grow a sugar and tea sufficient for 1 cup of tea, 140 liters is quite huge amount. And that's how we are depleting water sources from the earth. Then land degradation. As you know, if you want to grow something, you need to do tillage activities, cultivational activities, you need to prepare the land, and you need to do a lot of things with the soil. And while doing that things, you disturb ecological balance from the soil. We disturb life cycles of flora and fauna in the soil. You need to destroy the weeds and other unwanted things from the soil. And that's how you degrade the land. Ideally, if you want to have an ideal agricultural land, you need to have minimum 1% of organic carbon percentage in the soil. And it is called as a, what you can call is a perfect fertile soil. And another what we can say is a signal or another sign of the fertile land is if your soil is giving good scent when it is hydrated, then you can call it a fertile soil. It is a full of microflora, and that's how the soil should be. But since you have to grow minimum 3 to 4 crops per year in the race of commercial agriculture, you need to use hybrid seeds. To feed them, you need chemical fertilizers because you need more power, you need more nutrient, you need more water, and all these chemical fertilizers, they have lethal effect on the soil, microorganism as well as plant. And all these chemical fertilizer, they were used as a used as ammunition in explosives in World War II. Once World War II war, there were millions and million tons of chemicals were there, nitrates, phosphates, and all that, and they just started using in agriculture. The thing which used to kill the enemy in the battlefield, same thing is used to kill the nutritional value of the plant in your soil. So that's how land started degrading, organic matter content going down. As organic matter is going down, then microflora is also getting down, it is getting depleted, and that's where the problem started. Apart from that, deforestation is another thing. Initially, during historic and prehistoric time, human being, they used to do shift agriculture. Means they just burn down and clean up the forest. They just do the agriculture, stay there on the farm, After 3 to 4 years, as soil fertility goes down, they leave that area as it is and then go to the another area, and they start doing agriculture there. And that's how they had a lot of scorching patches on the jungle, and that's how this is another what we can say is a threat to the forest. And still till date, lots of people are doing shift agriculture, even in India, in Northeast region, then in South America, so many, even in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, China, all these countries, this shift agriculture is being done. Apart from that, as population grew, we need to grow more and more food. And that's if you want to grow more food, there are two ways to do it. One is improve production capacity of your crop, of your farm, or improve the acreage. And that's why people started doing deforestation, preparing new lands for plantation, and that's how they started improving the productivity of agriculture, or use more chemicals and try to get more yield. So by these things, it is scorching our climate, it is affecting our environment, and that's how doing agriculture itself is non-sustainable. But what we can do to make it sustainable? Before going to those things, we should know disadvantages of conventional agriculture. Conventional agriculture means the agriculture which is been done in presence and since last few decades. You can call it as a chemical agriculture as well. First is, as I told you, soil fertility is getting depleted. All beneficial microflora has gone down, and that's why you need to use more and more chemical fertilizers. Then there is a simple example of soil fertility depletion. See, during our childhood, you must remember, during first rainfall, the soil used to smell nicely, but intensity of smell or that fragrance you will not find right now, because soil has been depleted, and this smell is produced by a group of microorganisms called actinomycetes, and that actinomycetes count has gone down a lot, and that's why you don't find that fragrance in the soil. So that is one of the sign of soil fertility. Apart from that, there is resistance in pest, because chemical pesticide, because if you want to grow more food, you need to keep your enemies away. And which are those enemies? Insects, fungus, bacteria, weeds, and some herbivorous animals like deers and all that. You need to keep them away, otherwise you will not able to get your share or get your productivity. And that's how people started using chemical pesticides. Initially, the pesticides, as you know, what is the basic chemical they used to use as a pesticide. Then right from like sulfur and copper and like that. After that, synthetic pesticides introduced into the market, like BHC, that benzene hexachloride, and DDT, Alaclo, and lots of chemical pesticides. All organocarbons and organochlorines pesticides were incorporated as a pest control tool in agriculture. Even the person who invented DDT, he got Nobel Prize. But that DDT, not only DDT, but the DDT and DDT like chemicals, all organic chlorines, they were persistent. They used to be in the soil, in the environment for a long time. Even some chemicals, they can stay in soil for around 15 to 20 years. That's their half-life. And that's why they started being there for a long time. Then scientists knew the disadvantages of organochlorines. Then they did innovations, and then they came to organophosphates, little bit safer chemicals. Again, organophosphates also, the dirty truth of organophosphate we understood, and again we evolved, and then we went for the organocarbons. Then after organocarbons, then there were neonicotinoids. Then we got to know that neonicotinoids are harmful for honeybees and other beneficial insects, then again we went for the different chemicals, and that's how this race is going on. After that, now we are on the botanical pesticides and microbial pesticides and predators, parasites. So many different type of pest control tools are being used. But these chemicals, what they did is they cause resistance in the insect. Suppose there is an insect in your field, and you spray insecticide with 1 ml of the dose, and if you spray it regularly, maybe after a few days or few months, that insect will learn the art of digestion of that pesticide. It will start digesting that, and that insect will not die with 1 ml of pesticide. You need to use more. You need to use 1.5 or 2 ml of that. And that's how it's just like alcohol. The person who drinks alcohol, at first instance, he may not handle 1 glass of alcoholic drink. Okay. But after a few months or years, he learns that art of digestion. Okay. Same thing happens for insects also. And that's how the dose of insecticide kept on increasing. And nowadays people use almost double, triple, or 4 times of the dose of the pesticides, whatever dose is given on the label. So that's how the insects are developing resistance. They are becoming super bugs, and that's another problem. Then apart from that, these chemical pesticides, they kill non-targets. As I told you, neonicotinoids, they just kill the honeybees, earthworms. And if we kill, apart from honeybees and earthworm, there are so many other non-target insects are there, like ladybird beetle, then cryptolemurs, other beetles, phytocoelus mite, nuocoelus, and so many other insects. They are just your friend. They just help you to eradicate insects, many harmful insects from your field, from your farm. And when we use chemical pesticides, they destroy other beneficials also. And that's why, and what happens generally, the beneficial insects have long life cycle, and most of harmful insects, they have short life cycle. When you use chemical pesticide, it will eradicate harmful as well as beneficial. But while reoccurring, the harmful one will come earlier, and to control that harmful insect, there will be no availability of beneficial insect, because this life cycle is long. It will come later, and that's how we are getting more and more damage to our crop. And apart from that, residue in food, it is again big problem. Today, our water, food, air, land, soil, all resources are contaminated with chemicals. You must not be knowing, but right from morning to evening, we come across around 5,000 chemicals, different chemicals. And it starts with your, start from your paste, then soap, then the agarbattis, okay, all aldehydes and ketones. Then what we can say is different chemical used for cleaning in the home, that's the disinfectants, so many things. Then pesticides, fertilizers, like that. From morning to evening, we encounter around 5,000 chemicals. And those chemicals, they are having different effects on our health. Some chemicals, they just get trapped in, because they are lipophilic in a nature, and they get trapped in the fat, and over the period of that time, they just get saturated in your fat. And when they develop a sufficient dose to cause the effect, then that time it can cause cancer or maybe some other disease symptom. And this is biggest problem. And nowadays, not from agriculture, from other industries also, so many chemicals are being thrown in the environment, in the water. And unfortunately, we don't have system to analyze all those chemicals in your water. Even in drinking water, you can see what are the parameter we analyze when we go for the potability, when we identify the potability of water in lab. We don't identify organic chemicals and all those things. So that's the irony. Then environmental pollution, as I told you, we are polluting all sources of the environment, and that's why there is a lot of pollution. Then loss of environmental resources. We are losing a lot of resources. As I told you, we are getting everything from the planet. If you need mineral, if you need gold, silver, platinum, precious metals, food, feed, whatever you need, you get from environment, and you are just scorching it. You are just we are just extracting it. So that's why we are losing our environmental resources, and automatically causing ill effects on human health. So these are the ill effects of conventional agriculture. Then again, coming back to the sustainable agriculture, there are three pillars of sustainable agriculture. First is the person, the people. Okay. Second is the environment, the planet, and third is the economic, the profit. Okay, the money we want to gain. So these are three pillars, three main pillars of organic agriculture. And apart from that, there are some key principles of organic agriculture. That is, first one is incorporation of biological and ecological process such as nutrient cycling, soil regeneration, nitrogen fixation, like that. And as I told you, to replace chemicals from the agriculture, we can use some biological or some microbial solutions. To replace nitrogen fertilizers, we can use the organism like Azotobacter, Rhizobium to provide the nitrogen. As you know, a lot of nitrogen is available in the environment, but plant can't get it directly from the air. That's why there are microbes, they can fix it for the plant. They get it nitrogen from the air, fix it and provide to the plant. We call it symbiotic as well as non-symbiotic microorganisms, nitrogen fixing microorganism. Apart from that, there are several organisms like phosphorus solubilizing microorganism. There is a lot of phosphorus available in the soil, but it is not soluble. It is not in available form. It just get it from the soil, solubilize it, digest it, and makes it available to the plant. So that is phosphorus solubilizing microorganism. Like that, there are potash mobilizing microorganism, like micronutrient mobilizing or solubilizing microorganism. So many organisms nowadays are available for as a substitute to chemical fertilizers. Then there are substitutes available for organic pesticides as well. As I told you, there are lots of botanical pesticides or microbial pesticides are available. You must have heard about BT, Bacillus thuringiensis, BT cotton and genetically modified crops. The same organism you can grow in a lab and can be used as a biopesticide. The extract from neem, karanja, aloe vera, and what we can say is garlic and onion. So many plant extract are available as a biopesticide. Second is using decreased amount of non-renewable and unsustainable inputs, particularly environmentally harmful ones. These fertilizers, which are not friendly for the environment, not good for the environment, we can decrease the use, and to overcome their absence, we can use the nature-based fertilizers like compost and vermicompost, like that. Then third one is using the expertise of farmers to both productivity work the land as well as to promote the self-reliance and self-sufficiency of the farmer. We can use a lot of resources, in-house resources, and we can manage the agriculture. And fourth one is solving agriculture and natural resource problem through the cooperation and collaboration of people with different skills. And the problem tackled include pest and irrigation management. Now, the key point, fourth key point says that we can solve agriculture and natural resource problem by cooperating and collaborating with each other. These are the four key points of the sustainable agriculture. And nowadays we hear about a lot of different terminologies in agriculture. Organic agriculture, zero budget farming, jaivik kheti, biological agriculture, biodynamic agriculture, natural agriculture, residue free agriculture, and so many other terms are there in the market. Then generally we get confused. Actually, organic agriculture is most famous one. So what is it exactly? What is the difference between all those type of agriculture? The first of all is these all things, they they initiated or they generated from different ideologies. But all these terminologies are referred to the sustainable agriculture itself, because the base of these all types of agriculture is on the natural agriculture. Organic agriculture is the mother tongue of all those things, because if you have all those terminologies, but you have to get it certified as organic from organic certification agency, then it will call as organic farming. Then zero budget farming, they don't use anything. Okay, like that, there are different type of organic agriculture that don't get confused with these things. These are all same. The output of these farming things are same. Then what are the opportunities in sustainable agriculture? There are a lot of opportunities. First is we get an opportunity to cleanse our environment, to clear, to what we can say is to clean our environment. So that is first opportunity we have by going through the sustainable practices in the agriculture. We reduce the chemicals. We rely more on natural things, natural input, and that's how we decrease the burden, the load of pollutants in environment. Then second opportunity is we sustain the natural resources. We use them sustainably, and we don't extract them irrationally. So that's the second opportunity. Third, to enhance health and hygiene. Okay, because since we are cleansing the environment, we are putting less chemicals in the environment, we will be definitely improving health and hygiene of human being, animals, as well as Mother Earth. Then self-sufficiency of farming community, because in sustainable agriculture, the main focus is to use on-farm things. Okay, instead of getting input from outside, you need to produce them on farm. For example, instead of getting fertilizer from outside, you have to you can go for composting the agriculture material produced on your farm. You can go for the vermicompost. You can go from organic compost tea, and so many things. Then you can extract. You can make some cocktails from the plant extract like Dashaparni, Arka, and all those things. Jivamrut, and you can use them as a agriculture inputs. So self-sufficiency is one of the key point in sustainable agriculture. Then there are a lot of business opportunities, because nowadays everybody wants residue-free food, everybody wants organic food, everybody wants a nutritious food, because while producing food from the organic sustainable agriculture, you get more nutrient value of that food. Things everybody wants. And the government of India is also promoting a lot of scheme to promote business in sustainable agriculture. Then it will create a lot of job opportunities also. That's why I'll be showing what are the opportunities we'll be producing in next slide. What are the employment areas? Employment areas is farming or food production, because first and most important thing is you need to produce the food by sustainable way. Okay, chemical free, residue free food. That's why the need of skilled, unskilled and semi-skilled manpower is much more in sustainable agriculture. Lots of courses are available, lots of trainings are available for farming community, and there is a lot of scope for skilled manpower to grow the sustainable crop. Then another area is education and outreach, because such a big community is depending on this agriculture, this type of agriculture. That's why there are lots of educational opportunities are available. Agro-tourism is one of the sector where employment opportunities are there. Then again, research and development, horticulture, farmland preservation, food science, advocacy and police. There are some legal aspects and all that. Input manufacturing like pesticide, fertilizer, biopesticide, biofertilizer, and other agri input manufacturing, food processing things, sales and marketing, administration, accounts and finance. So all these opportunities are there. And for this sales and marketing, actually agriculture people involved in agriculture, they don't rely much on marketing and sales, and that's why we lag behind in commercial agriculture and in market. So that's why there are lots of opportunities in sales and marketing. You can develop skill set to sell the product, to market the product, and you can have a different dimension to your career. And lots of marketing opportunities are there in sales and marketing. So these are the employment areas where we'll be needing a lot of trained manpower. What types of jobs will be there? There are jobs in research and technician, education program coordinator, then sustainability coordinator, farms and agriculture manager, then agriculture entrepreneurs, extension and outreach specialist, grant writing specialist, because there are lots of grants and funds available with the government, so that there will be technical people needed for that. Then in factories, quality control officers, managers, and R&D people, production people, sales and marketing, product development, administration officers, manager, like that. So lots of jobs will be coming in this field. What are the business opportunities? Because to fulfill this thing, any business, if you want to do any business, you need good suppliers and you need good customers. Okay. And though we are going for sustainable agriculture, but we are going to sell our product in commercial agriculture, commercial market itself. That's why we need professionals. Okay, we need professional people. We need professional team to do all these operations. First is there are a lot of opportunities in manufacturing sectors like inputs. You must be knowing that Bhutan organic agriculture was slowed down. Bhutan was the first country to declare as an organic country in the world. Okay, and 10 years back they declared themselves as organic, but their organic conversion slowed down because they didn't have any input manufacturer in-house. They need to import all organic input from outside, mostly from India, and that's why you need to have good manufacturers, local manufacturers, to provide the essential inputs necessary for organic sustainable agriculture. Then there are business opportunities to become a supplier or dealer or distributor of these kinds of inputs. Right now, what happened? The people who are dealer or distributor of pesticides or fertilizer, they are either not enough educated for this type of stuff, or they have only practical experience and don't have sufficient education, and they just become dealer or distributor or supplier by experience. But if somebody is well trained, he knows what to sell and what not to sell, how to identify chemical and sustainable things and organic things, and he can guide or he can communicate better with the farmer. So there are a lot of opportunities in this business also. And believe me, this dealer distributor thing, they got quite good margins also. Then there are opportunities for consultants. Right now, what happened? Farmer are confused about so many things. Things are changing very fast. That's why there is a big opportunity available for consultant. People who have education and good experience, they can act as a consultant. And so many people in grapes, pomegranate, and this commercial crops, so many people, they have placed themselves as a consultant, and they are consulting a lot of farmers and getting good amount of revenue also. So this is one of the opportunity for the agriculture people. Consultant for marketing, consultant for growing the crop, consultant for export. So all these areas are open for consultancy. Then there are a lot of farmer producer companies. Government is promoting them, giving a lot of funds, other support to make them possible, make them viable, sustainable. And even you can go to the Government of Maharashtra and India website and agriculture website, and you will find it. They are giving a lot of support. Farmer producer companies these days is hot topic, and you must be knowing Sahyadri Group of farmer producer company from Nasik. Around 630 farmers, they started this company, and now their turnover is almost 700 crore. It's a huge company. Yeah, I'll suggest you to go and visit their facility. So that's how farmer producer companies is one of the solution to become competitive in the market. Then another industry is become food processor, because only sustainable and organic food producers are not necessary, but food uh, producers are not necessary, but you need good processor also. So that's why there are opportunities in food processing industry. Then the business like logistics and export, there are also lots of opportunities. So these are the business opportunities we get from sustainable agriculture. Then if you want to choose to be entrepreneur, then there are some guidelines I'd like to share with you. These are all my own experiences and not copied paste from somewhere else. So these are the things will definitely help you to be successful as an entrepreneur, because agriculture is definitely very nice field to enter as an entrepreneur. The first of all is choose your niche. What I mean, when we start business, we are not focused enough. Okay, we want to do a lot of things simultaneously, and that takes a lot of toll of your energy and time. So that's why we need to choose our niche, and once we choose the niche, put your full focus on that niche only, and then set the goal. What you want, what you don't want. You need to set a goal for a minimum 3 to 5 years. And when you set the goal, set goal for everything. Set goal for, set economical goal, even goal for the activities. What will be things will be doing, what product you will be producing, where you'll be marketing, all that things. Put it on a paper and set the goal, and make your to-do list based on your goal. Then you should know your market better. Whatever business you are starting, you should know your market. What is the size of the market? What type of products are sold? What are their prices? What are the margins? Which community consumes what product? Which market prefer which product? Like that, you should have detailed information about your market. Unless and until you don't know what is your market, you don't know where to what is your goal, you will not able to put your aim on that goal. So that's why you should know your market. Then the most important thing is know legalities and regulations, because government regulations, they change frequently, and we need to know the regulations. If you are clear enough on the regulations, if you have certification, license and all those things, it gives you a lot of confidence, and it saves a lot of your time and money. So that's why you should know legalities and regulations clearly. And apart from that, build your own brand. Most of people in agriculture, they just pack it somewhere and try to sell. But you should build your own brand, have your logo, have your brand name. You must register it. You must have a trademark of your brand, of your logo. Okay, and you should have a perfect label design, packing design, because it's a need of the hour. Because most of agriculture people, they don't do all those things. They just try to sell as it is, and then that's why it's a short-term activity for them. They don't build their brand as such. So building a brand is necessary. Then keep right attitude. Since when we start our business, we are the first product of our company. When you go to your client, and if you are accepted, if your energy is accepted by your client, your company and your products are automatically accepted. That's why you should have a right attitude, right energy while going to the market, while facing everybody. That's why being as an entrepreneur, your attitude matters a lot. That's why you should be positive, you should be with a full of energy, and automatically your product and company will be accepted. Then develop the network. You should, instead of trying to manufacture each and everything yourself, you can develop a network. You can get it from market itself. Even that network can be used to sell your product. Network can be used to procure your raw materials. That's why networking skill is very much important if you want to be an entrepreneur. Then focus on marketing and sales. As I told you, in agriculture, we don't take much efforts on marketing and sales. But marketing and sales is the core activity of any business. You should know how to sell the product, and you should know how to get money from the customer. If you know that, then you can do any type of business. If you don't know how to grow or manufacture, that's okay. but if you know how to sell, then you can get it manufactured from others. So that's why you should know marketing skills. You should have marketing skills. And most important thing is keep your promises. Okay. In Indian scenario, we are not more used to this terminology promise. Okay. When we promise somebody, you can't promise that promise will be fulfilled. So that's why whatever you can deliver, only promise that thing and try to deliver in time, try to deliver before time. It gives huge impact when you are in entrepreneurship. So these are the things I wanted to share with you. I think you must have got some points, some useful points from my presentation. If you have any questions, you can interact me with now.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. First of all, the presentation was really amazing and it was really self-explanatory. The points were really amazing and even the pictures. So thank you so much for this amazing presentation and it was really informative. So with your permission, I would like to start the question answer session. Yes. So the first question is, what is the scope after microbiology? So if the students have done BSc microbiology or MSc microbiology, what is the scope in sustainable agriculture?
Okay. Actually, there are two types of things you can choose for. First, if you want to go for the job, then there are lots of companies who are manufacturing inputs like biofertilizer, biopesticides, even food processing companies. Those companies you can directly join as a with the R&D department, manufacturing, quality control, or some other department. That is the one thing. What we can say is road open for you. If you want to go for entrepreneurship route, then you can go for manufacturing of these things. Not only manufacturing, but even you can become a marketing or selling agency for these types of products. So there are two things. You can start your own manufacturing thing, because lots of people from microbiology background have turned into biofertilizer manufacturers since last 15-20 years. So that is one of the road available. And if you don't have entrepreneurial capacity, you can just join any company and you can enter into any department, whatever suits you.
Okay, sir. Our next question is how awareness can be created in urban areas. So how students or the general mob can be aware in staying in the urban areas.
I think pandemic has taught us a lot how to be in our villages. Okay, most of IT people, they are already sitting in their villages and attending their job. So that's why people have started realizing these things. Only thing is, what we can say is there are two things: promoting people to stay in agriculture and promoting agriculture. What was the question? Can you please repeat?
Awareness in urban areas.
Okay, awareness of sustainable agriculture in an urban area, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, for developing awareness, you can do few things. First is farming community is still not highly educated. Okay, their terminologies, their knowledge about the agriculture is in different language itself. And now biotech and microbial things have gone to different level. So you can simplify the things and you can teach them in their language. I'll just give you the example. Around 12 years back, we used to sell some nucleopolyohydrosis viruses, NP viruses for the farmers. And in Chhattisgarh area, we used to have a lot of problems of that insect. And the company whom we used to sell that product, they complained that there is no result of the product. We went there, we analyzed the thing, and then we spent almost 1.5 months on the field. We just put petri dishes with all farmers, ask them to put that caterpillar in petri dish, just feed it for a long time. Automatically, caterpillar turned into cocoon. They knew the cocoon, but they didn't know that the cocoon belongs to the caterpillar, same caterpillar. After some days, cocoon transform into the fly, moth, then moth again laid eggs and produce larva. And during 1.5 months, they came to know whole cycle of the life cycle of the caterpillar. And after 12 years also, that those farmers, they still call and they say, now अभी मेरे को कैटरपिलर वो मौत दिख रहा है, अभी वो अंडा डालेगा ना सर 8 दिन में, तो अभी मैं शुरू कर दूं एग्स वाला दवाई. मीन्स if you train them in their language with practical things, definitely they understand a lot. They have a lot of knowledge. Only thing is that knowledge is into different language altogether. They know practical language, and we speak totally language from different planet. So that's the communication gap is there. If you have good models to train them, definitely we can communicate these things to the farmer. The way we teach school student, same way we should use to train the farmer. At least another next 20-30 years, unless and until next batch of educated farmers comes into the place. So that is the one way you can promote this thing, promote awareness of agriculture among the farmer. You can use some audiovisual tools as well, some good local language documentaries, and lots of NGOs are doing these things. Yeah.
Right, sir. Yes. Okay. So the next question is, which technologies can be used so that which are preferable so that the agriculture becomes sustainable?
Okay, actually, we can't say there is a single technology. जादूची कांडी नहीं है to convert sustainable agriculture into successful thing. Sustainable agriculture depends on so many different parameters. Okay, doing agriculture itself is a multidisciplinary thing, and so many different disciplines involved there, right? From engineering, agriculture, microbiology, pathology, botany, virology, so many different soil sciences, chemistry, and all that. So many different sciences are involved. But that's why you cannot have single things to change the agriculture. It is a multidisciplinary thing. You need to, first of all, you need to have good knowledge of what you want to grow, and good knowledge of soil. Soil is the biggest thing. Nowadays, people, they just focus on the plant, okay, and they forget the soil. So we need to know the soil, we need to know the plant, and we need to know the environmental conditions. If we have good control on these things, and if we develop a good schedules for the plant, if I have a good SOP, in simple word, if I have a good SOP for the crop production, and if I know what to do when things go wrong, definitely we can make it much more sustainable. And agriculture is the only thing where you get production of 1,000 from one. So that's why only thing is you need to get control over all those things. This is practical science. That's why if you are a double PhD, it will not help you in agriculture, in growing plant. You need to spend minimum 1,000 days in the farm to understand the agriculture, so that you can do something fruitful in agriculture. That's why there is no simple technology available. You need to learn different sciences to become farmer.
Right, absolutely, sir. So the next question is, are there any government schemes related to sustainable agriculture?
Okay, actually there are lots of schemes. I'm afraid that I may not able to tell because I'm not aware of things, but there are so many schemes. First of all, there is scheme for organic agriculture. It belongs to sustainable agriculture itself. You get financial aid from government to get your farm certified organic, so that you can sell it as organic food. Then there are schemes for farmer producer companies. You can come together, a group of farmer, you can come together. You can register it as a farmer producer companies, and they give you money right from logistic to some processing plant like oil extractors and all those things. There is a lot of fund available, and they are giving you quite easily. So these are two schemes, but apart from that, I think there are schemes available for oil seeds, then scheme available for dryland crops. So many schemes are available. You can just simply visit Maharashtra Agriculture Government Department websites, and you will find it there. There are two types of schemes. Maharashtra Agriculture Department, and second is from central government. You can just Google it. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So this is that is all for the questions. But we have many comments saying that this was a very informative session. So thank you for that from all our viewers. And also thank you for associating with Purnam Ecovision Foundation and Ecological Solutions. So thank you so much for this session. And I would also like to thank our viewers so for listening the webinar patiently. Also, I would like to tell you all that these sessions are on every Wednesday at 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. So you can keep watching it. We are going to continue with these sessions. So see you all on next Wednesday. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.